Matt Reeves' The Batman is long and disturbing. Will Ben Affleck cameo in the MCU instead? And what could that mean for the DCEU? Hey, welcome back to the Ping Pong Flix. My name is Chris Wong. First, let's talk about the Batman, and then we're going to talk about Ben Affleck. Alright, let's talk about Matt Reeves' The Batman. Now, Matt Reeves' The Batman is currently scheduled to come out March of this year. Finally, it's been delayed so many times, and hopefully this new Omicron thing won't delay this again. But so far, Warner Media has said that it is indeed coming out in theaters March 4th. And with it coming out in that 45-day theatrical window, we'll finally get to see the performance of the Batman without the help of HBO Max. But there has been debate on whether Matt Reeves' The Batman was going to be rated R or rated PG. Well, now the MPA has officially declared it PG-13. The Batman rated PG-13 for strong, violent, and disturbing content, drug content, strong language, and some suggestive material. Now, you certainly could see a lot of that action and violence in the trailers itself. Also disturbing content probably because the Riddler is going to be like the Saw villain in the Batman universe. As it's been said, it's going to have these horror elements just like Saw, in which Riddler tortures his victims. Now, some may have been disappointed that it's not rated R, seeing that some recent DC movies were rated R, such as Birds of Prey and The Suicide Squad. But PG-13 is not really that bad. You can get away with a lot in PG-13. You can have blood, you can have some gore, lots of violence and action, and it's kind of weird. Sometimes that border to rated R is like dropping like 1 or 2 F-bombs. So the MPA is very strange in rating these things. It's just judging by test screen reactions and the trailers, it's probably going to be borderline rated R at this point. Now, if you're wondering if they're going to cut down anything from the previous test screenings have said that it was almost 3 hours. So the runtime has actually been revealed on IMDb itself. The runtime is 2 hours and 55 minutes. In the words of Angry Joe, it's almost 3 hours. 3 hours. Almost 3 hours, but pretty much the same duration as the test screenings, which is good because I would like to see the longer version most of the time, and seeing that there's going to be a lot of story elements in this leading up to potential sequels after this movie. This movie is like the birth of this new universe in DC, a self-contained trilogy for now, with tons of villains diving deep into the Batman lore. The Batman can't come soon enough, March 4th, 2022. Alright, let's talk about Ben Affleck. So yeah, we've got this huge Batman character coming out on March 4 with Robert Pattinson, where a lot of us OG DC fans are still wondering when are we going to get to see Ben Affleck as Batman again. Well, Ben Affleck shut that down. He said he doesn't want to be in any IP movies anymore. He's pretty much just said no to big blockbuster films. He's concentrating on deep character movies, independent movies that he thinks will probably end up on streaming services. But it's interesting because the most recent rumor that's going around and corroborated by multiple scoopers is that Ben Affleck may have been offered something else in the superhero genre. According to MCU Direct, rumor, Marvel Studios reportedly contacted Ben Affleck about a potential cameo as Daredevil in Doctor Strange 2. Daredevil? One of the movies that Ben Affleck is probably not too proud of and probably wants it to go away. But I gotta say that the director's cut of Daredevil is pretty good. I actually enjoyed that one. Casey Walsh from the Geeks Worldwide said, saw a story that Marvel reached out to Affleck for a Daredevil cameo. This was something I heard as well, but I wouldn't expect a cameo. Big Screen Leaks also said, for obvious reasons, I was asked to keep this a secret, but Marvel did indeed reach out to Affleck for a cameo as Daredevil. They sent out preliminary contracts to his team, but I'm not sure if anything came of it. The account also mentioned that Ben Affleck was approached and contacted last year. Would Ben Affleck say yes? Because he doesn't want to do IP movies anymore, at least that's what he said, I want to lean towards a no. But he is going to play Batman once again in the Flash movie. There could be a chance, a very small chance, that maybe he wants to kind of wrap up that Daredevil role and has a small cameo in Doctor Strange 2, which is interesting because he did talk about Kevin Feige just last year. In an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, that coinciding with not Daredevil, which was not a good movie, even though effing Kevin Feige, who is, you absolutely have to say, the greatest producer, most successful producer who ever lived. He's the only guy in the world who, if he told me, like, I know what the audience wants, this is what we're going to do, I would believe it in a heartbeat. That effort knows his audience like no producer. He's a genius. Absolutely master, circus ring master of the circus. He knows exactly when to pull at the heartstrings of the audience, exactly how to do the effects, how many jokes, what the sensibility, what the tone is, and on and on. So he's pretty much gushing about Kevin Feige. And yeah, you're right. Kevin Feige certainly does know a lot about fan service. As we've already seen in Spider-Man No Way Home, there's a lot of fan service in there. And from what we know so far and the recent test screenings for Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness, there's a lot of cameos in that movie. I mean, there's a ton of variants in that movie. Lots of spoilers online, so be careful. But one of the biggest surprises that could happen would be Ben Affleck returning as Daredevil for a small cameo for the MCU. Now, I'm not really all too excited for a Daredevil cameo, but I see a potential of this happening over for DC. Why? Because if Ben Affleck is willing to cash in a paycheck just to return as Daredevil because he knows that's what audience wants, that level of fan service, there could be a future where later on he could just cash in a small cameo as Batman in any DC films. Because his heart's not going to be totally there, but hey, cash in that check, Ben, and then use that to invest in your own movies. If you want to. So I guess if he does show up as Daredevil in Doctor Strange 2, that means to me that he could make some appearances as Batman later on. But if he doesn't show up and they did offer him the role in Doctor Strange 2, then I can honestly say at this time he is totally done with superhero movies. Well, what do you think about Matt Reeves' The Batman? Did you wish that it was rated R, or are you okay with it being PG-13? And what do you think about Ben Affleck as Batman? Do you think he'll come back as Daredevil in Doctor Strange 2, or do you think he's completely done with superhero movies?